Boom, baby, boom. Week 1 of the college football season is here,
Week
baby.
1. Let's go.
Florida, Miami hate week has been ensued for the last several days.
It's official.
But we had some college football last weekend.
We sure did.
It was the appetite, got a little bit of appetizers on the menu, but obviously it was scintillating to watch the first game of the day. It's actually on right here. We're watching it again. Those Florida State Seminoles, baby, go to Dublin, Ireland, and catch the big L and lose. That was a long flight home. It was so encouraging to watch Mike Norvell's post-game speech today. I saw the Florida State posted their cinematic experience recap. I'm like, man, do you not want to play this? Like when you lose the game and you got all that footage, it's like it just feels like I don't want to post this, but they did. It was
I saw at the end of the game he took the blame and said it was on him.
Yeah, well, like they had the locker room, the cinematic coming in, flying in, doing the Irish jig on TikTok and all that, and then highlights from the game, and then they had the post game in the locker room, his speech and stuff, and he pinned the loss on himself, and I would say so. Florida State did not look good at all. So the big question everybody's been asking is Florida State overrated? Are they not that good? Or is Georgia Tech better than what we thought? It's probably a little bit of both. But I mean, I guess what were your biggest takeaways, your thoughts after watching them go over across the pond and come out 0-1?
I mean, some of the things we talked about, they need to find a number one receiver. That's the first thing. I think they were trying to get it to Malik Benson a little bit, but DJ was off target, and I thought the Florida State lines of scrimmage were very, very disappointing, especially after we both thought that would be the strong point of the team this season. That defensive line was just getting bullied, and I think Georgia Tech had a really good game plan attacking those defensive ends. They really weren't running it up the middle. They were attacking Peyton and Marvin Jones on a lot of counters and different things like that. And they were just bullying them the whole game. And then on the flip side, they had great the Georgia Tech defensive line had great penetration. I think part of that is they had no faith in their passing game, and they were blitzing. They had, they were showing 5 in the box, 6 in the box, and then late into the progression of the snap count, they were bringing a safety down or a corner or extra linebacker. And they played straight assignment football the whole game on both sides of the ball. And then on the Georgia Tech offense, as they were running, they had before the half, an 8-minute drive, like a 10+ play 8-minute drive, and they dictated the whole game.
Yeah, ultimately, I think that was one of the big difference makers of when you play that style of ball, and you can actually what's wild too is you say that time of possession was dead even. It was just that Georgia Tech held those drives in certain points of the game that was so critical, like especially the very end of the game where Florida State had one possession in the last 21 minutes of game time, which is like that was their
scoring drive.
They scored on that drive, but then guess what? At 6.5 minutes, Georgia Tech ate it up and went down and kicked the game-winning field goal. But I feel like, my biggest takeaway is, everybody wants to try to blame DJU. He missed some downfield throws. It almost reminded me of Mertz last year, where he hit a lot of easy throws, hoping you get the layups, hoping you get, the warm-ups. It was like after those first, 15 scripted plays, I was like, shit, Florida State went down the field that day. I was like, man, I was about to text the group and be like, well, Florida State offense, y'all look pretty damn good. But I was like, I'm going to hold my, reservations. And it was like, what happened to some of those, jet sweep motions? The kid, the Indiana transfer, the little Jalen Lucas guy, one of the fastest guys on Florida State's team. He literally had 3 touches on that first drive and didn't touch it again the rest of the day. It's like, what, like, that definitely he's handcuffing and hiding DJ. He doesn't have any confidence in DJ, or DJ doesn't have any confidence in himself throwing the ball down the field, because nothing was down the field vertical. You didn't stress the defense at all.
Do you think part of that, Alex Atkins not being there, the OC not being there, and not having the same person talking to you through the speaker and, calming you down, giving you – I mean, I'm not saying that's a huge part of it, but it's a part. You have to factor.
It's definitely a factor, but I still think the offense goes through Norvell, and he makes a lot of those final decisions. And
For sure.
The whole thing about like we'll get into the headset thing later is, that's a new thing anyway. So it's not like he's ever had Alex Atkins in his head or in his ear, but coming to the sideline, looking at what you saw, what happened. It may have had a little bit of a factor, but it shouldn't. And you shouldn't have that as an excuse. It's almost. Does Norvell?
No. I'm not making that an excuse, but it is something you got to think about.
No, for sure. I honestly, I think it comes down to what we said. They ain't got no freaking playmakers. They don't got Keon Coleman. They don't got
outside of the running back position.
And hell, again, going back to that, Trey Benson was a dude. Like Roydell Williams, that's Bama's like second, third back. So it's like he's still got to prove himself. But
the tell factor too was, well, and then putting Tiafole at wide receiver a couple times is like, man, you guys have no confidence in your wide receivers.
I already heard that from like listening to Baloo and some of the local guys and listening to that is that they were trying to figure out how to get like Tiafole and Roydell on the field at the same time, because Tiafole is a good pass catcher and guy out of the backfield. How can they get both of them on there? And yeah, exactly. That goes to your point of, you got to put one of your best backs at receiver in the slot because you don't have anybody else you could throw to, So it's like, they just lost way too much for them to be. I feel like it was almost a pity ranking that they put them at the number 10 team in the country, and then all summer, all we hear is how great these new guys are. It's just plug and replace. We got the dudes. We got this guy from Alabama. We got this guy from Georgia. Like, again, I said it in the preview a week ago. I'm like, these guys didn't do nothing at Alabama and Georgia. Like, they still got to prove themselves at Florida State. These are guys who, they're not 2-year guys who've been in the program like a Jared Verse and a Keon Coleman and those guys.
Right.
So it's a whole nother buying into the culture and all that stuff. Now, it's a wait and see approach. I'm not going to overreact.
Yeah, you can't overreact yet. You got to give Georgia Tech credit.
I give them a credit, but here's the other thing. Yeah. Now you've got to tell me, you look at Florida State now as a 3 or 4 loss team. Like,
potentially,
like the schedule sets up, but I still, looking at it now, I wouldn't pick. I mean, we still got to see you guys and us, but those are going to be 2 tough games, rivalry games. They still got to play Notre Dame and Clemson. Hell. Memphis, we know what they can do scoring wise. So if your defense,
well, this week against Boston College, who's traditionally has a big offensive line, a quarterback that's returning for a second year, who's athletic, that could move,
mobile, exactly, a mobile
defensively. Guy. I don't know what they're bringing back, but it was just disappointing to watch that defensive line just get bullied around. That's pretty much what it was.
It was that, and it almost looked like watching it. It looked like they had 4 guys who weren't playing the assignment football. They weren't doing what they were supposed to do. They were playing hero ball. They were playing money ball. Like, I'm going to do what I want to do.
Yeah,
and you cannot do that. You can't get out of it,
especially with the lines of scrimmage.
Watching those guys, they were trying to fly up. Even the linebacker play, Lundy was disappointing. 9, whoever 9 is, he was disappointing. They're just flashing and flying, diving at legs. The counter and the motion stuff that Georgia Tech was running was like, had them on skates. They didn't know what to do. And on the flip side too, Haynes King had a pretty decent game, but like, he didn't light the world on fire. He didn't throw the ball downfield.
He was efficient.
He did what they needed him to do. But I'm just like, you're going to see way better offenses than Georgia Tech.
Yeah, the Georgia Tech offense is just a very deceptive offense, like you say, with all the eye candy and everything. It's making you be disciplined, and if you're not disciplined, they're going to gas you, and that's what they did. And then Florida State missed some tackles. DJ missed some passes. He missed that pass to Ja'Kai Douglas at the end of the game. That was huge. He puts that up and in his chest. He's walking in for a touchdown. That might be the difference in the game right there. Instead of putting it on the dirt, and he was harassed a lot of the game. Like.
They were coming after him for sure.
Yeah, they got after him because, like I say, they didn't trust those wide receivers.
Yeah, and then on the flip side too, like you said, the offensive line didn't do a great job protecting, and they didn't even rush for 100 yards. They literally had that first drive. Yeah, they rushed for 98 yards total, and I think 50 of it was probably on that first drive.
I think it was 56 on that drive.
Yeah, so you're literally telling me you guys rushed for 50 yards in 3 quarters.
That's wild.
That ain't good. That ain't good.
I would have never said that before the game.
Yeah, well, and the thing about it is the way Georgia Tech played to limit those possessions. When you play that style of game, it just makes the room for error so slim. You have literally, if you get 7 possessions, and 9 times out of 10 in a game where you get 7 possessions, you only score on half of those. Maybe so that's literally 3 or 4 times. Hell, and they kicked 2 50-plus yard field goals. So it's like
they got a
they
kicker.
weren't even
they
weren't even
coming.
Kicker. They weren't even coming close to the red zone. A couple of those drops. So it's like that's a problem.
They got a lot to figure it out. I mean, like you say, I'm trying not to overreact on it. It's week 1. We're gonna see that a lot in a lot of games this weekend where teams are figuring it out, and you don't have that cupcake game to start the season off to where you can figure out, all right, this is our deficiencies, and we need to get these guys back on track and focused, and tell them, like you say, you can't play hero ball. You got to play assignment football. And when we were talking about the preview of Florida State, that was my biggest thing. Like second half of last season, they had those guys that knew their assignments and could make the adjustments on the fly during halftime into second half. But we're going to see that for the rest of the year. What will they do the rest of the year? You got to think that Mike's going to have those guys bounce back and still have a decent season. But like you said, 3-4 losses is not out of the realm. Watching that, if they continue to play like that, who's going to be the guy to step up on offense outside of the running back room?
Yeah,
who's going to be that guy? And can DJ be accurate? Can the offensive line protect? Because if you're any team going forward, you looked at that tape. If you're Boston College and you watch that tape, you're like, all right, coaches, this is what we're doing. We're going to get some QB counter in there, and we're going to attack those undersized defensive ends. And on the flip side, we're gonna blitz DJ.
Yeah,
someone's gonna have to prove it.
I think definitely. What's crazy is that they're lucky that damn game's at home too, boy. If they had to come back, from that road trip and then head up to Chestnut Hill, that would not be fun. Tough. But again, it's in Tallahassee. We'll see what they got. They definitely have to make an adjustment. Somebody's got to step up, and you know, it's a wait and see approach. It's kind of like how I felt going in.
Yeah, but with that being said, I got to give Georgia Tech a lot of credit. I think that's 6 ACC wins in the last 7 games for Brent Key. He's turned it around. They were laughing stock before he got there, before he took over. Even before they made the defensive coordinator adjustments last season, they were undisciplined. They couldn't protect the quarterback. They couldn't pass rush, and it was like after that Miami game, they kind of righted the ship a little bit and just got better during the season. So just watching them, they were those dudes were assignment football.
Yeah, well, like I say, again, this is the great part too about week 0, week 1, overreacting, not overreacting. We're gonna find out whether or not Florida State just had a bad game and just didn't play well. Is Georgia Tech really that good, or are these two average teams? Is Georgia Tech really not that great either? They just look good against a team that wasn't so good. So Georgia Tech did what they needed to do in that game, and they looked great. So now we'll see how their season materializes. They have a tough schedule. I think they have one of those. I think the 6th toughest schedule in the country, obviously, because they had to play. You got to play Georgia at the end of the year, so that obviously makes your schedule tough. I think they played Notre Dame as well too.
Yeah,
they got Notre Dame. They obviously played the Canes. They play NC State this year. They don't have Clemson on the schedule, but I mean, they get 2 easy games here in the next couple of weeks. They get Georgia State and VMI. Now they get at Syracuse sandwich in week 3, so that'll be their first road test. So we'll see how Georgia Tech translates as their season goes on, as far as what Florida State does to make their adjustments. And it kind of, what I'll piggyback into that is, the week 1, week 0, your first game in, that slowed down approach, the new approach you got to take because you're breaking in like a new quarterback, a new system, so like a Cam Ward, it's like this will be his first time playing for the Canes. So this is real live game action. It's communication. It's this, it's that. It's like, so I think for the teams who have that guy who's kind of played the year, I think that's going to be a benefit, like the Carson Becks or the Graham Mertzes, the guys who have been in a system playing at home, all that type of stuff is where it'll be interesting to see how the new guys, take it. Like, so DJU, with not his offensive coordinator, with Mike Norvell, obviously didn't work out well for those guys. Haynes King, that was he was a transfer from 2 years ago from A&M. So I'll be interested to see those guys who are breaking in, new guys like, the Georgia Clemson game. That should be, Cade Klubnik and Carson Beck. Those are two veteran guys. They played a lot of football together and, some of the other games. But I guess, going forward to this week, obviously the headliner for us is our guys, Miami, Florida. We've been talking about it since 4 weeks ago when we did our first breakdown of the Gators breakdown to all the way until we did the Canes and then until last week. So it's finally here, buddy. It's finally here. I know you like the Canes. I like the Gators, for whatever reasons. Obviously the line has basically been at a field goal for the last month, so Vegas thinks it's going to be a tight game. And that's obviously due to the game being in Gainesville. So give me your honest assessment of what you think is going to happen and why the Canes are going to take the dub down in Gainesville Saturday night afternoon.
Well, I think we're going to be able to run the football. It's going to be the biggest thing. And then just getting to the wide receivers. I think going into game one, I think Shannon Dawson's going to try to keep the game plan simple, hopefully not doing a lot of checks and route adjustments and things like that. Being in the swamp, you can't hear. It's one of the loudest places in the country. I'm curious to see the communication device. I know we say we're going to talk about it, but just watching a Georgia Tech game, you can see that it changes everything for what kids are used to looking over and looking at the signs, because you got to even throw in now, even though the quarterback's the one getting the signal in, he still has to disperse it through everyone else. Does that slow down up tempo? That might affect a lot of up tempo teams, where some teams are like, you know what, we have that device, but we're still going to use signs just to get everyone involved.
I'm thinking that's going to still be the case, even
until everyone gets used to it.
Right, because I think that's still probably your most efficient way. Because, like you said, just because Cam Ward doesn't have to, go to the sideline or look over to the sideline, he can get the call. If you're running a no huddle hurry up, he can't communicate to your receivers if you're doing a no huddle. Like, they won't be able to hear that. He'll have to signal something to them for what the play is, or you're going to have to be in huddle, still trying to communicate. And like I say,
but that mechanism, doing it in practice and doing it in a live environment when you have 100,000 people screaming is two totally different things.
Exactly. We saw, like I say, you said it last week. Haynes King's in a neutral site. Now it sounded like Florida State brought some people, and you heard that damn tomahawk chop the whole game, but he was having trouble. He even said, like, I couldn't hear through the headset, at a game, at a neutral field. So
how many coaches watched that and said, you know what, we need to rethink a couple things.
Well, also, like I just told you too, I was watching, Hard Knocks. They had, Caleb Williams. This is his first ever time doing, helmet communication, because they didn't have it last year in college. So now he's in the pros and they have it. In that first preseason game he had, there was audio issues. There was connectivity issues. Like, he could hear half the play and then it would cut out. And he's like, I don't know the play. I can't hear the play. Yeah. So he's got to huge. You got to improvise or call timeout and be like, hey, I can't hear you. We got to do something about it, or I'm just going to call what I want to call here. So,
but going back to the game, I think we're going to be able to run the football. It's just going to be one of those, Cam Ward can't turn the ball over. He can't get one of those fumbles where he's trying to scramble around and just puts it on the ground. And defensively, we got to pressure Mertz. We can't let it get to where he's sitting back there and picking us apart. Because if he's picking us apart, I'm worried about our secondary, just not knowing the uncertainty of who those guys are going to be when you're replacing almost your whole secondary. But I think we'll be able to get pressure and stop the run. I think that's the biggest thing. We're going to be able to stop the run and get pressure. And then on the flip side for Florida, who's going to be that guy at running back that steps up? I mean, Trayon Webb has a year under his belt, but he hasn't really shown us anything. And then Jordan Baugh is a freshman. If you're expecting a freshman to come in and lead the way, that's big. And, I think we're going to be able to confuse them with some of our blitz packages, with the running backs. Because, if you go the wrong way and the offensive line's going one way, you might be able to get Mertz killed back there. So I think we could pull the game out just with those things, being able to run the football, get the playmakers to football as well, and just rush the quarterback. and I think we're going to win by like 6 or 7. To be honest with you,
that's what I was going to ask you. What I was going to ask you was where you thought that is the line right? Do you think you're going to win by? Is it going to be a tight game pretty much all the way through? Is you going under on the score? Like, is it going to be a defensive battle?
I think it's going to be close for most of the game, and I think we can make a play in the second half once things settle in. But what we can't have is an avalanche type start to where we're just going backwards and Florida jumps on a 7, get up 7-0 and get that place rocking.
Yeah, no, for sure. That definitely. I need the Tennessee game. I need the Auburn game from a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. I need that crowd. I need that crowd to be like Utah 2 years ago. And usually, early in the season, now the Gators aren't, 5-5 going into the game, or have 5 losses, so the crowd's not into it. It's early in the year. There's still optimism, still all that. It's going to be jacked. It's sold out. All that good stuff. We know what that place can do and what it could be like. Early in the year, and like you said, the earlier momentum of if you guys come out and start off fast, how you can quiet the crowd versus the Gators come out hot and quick, and all of a sudden that crowd's jacked the whole game. So that's going to be. I need, like I say, you need those early, something big to happen. Early offensively. Definitely the biggest key, like you say, I think it's almost in every game. Who can run the ball? Who can stop the run? Who can get after the quarterback? I mean, it's not brain surgery. I feel like Miami's pass rush is probably going to be the best pass rush at even all the SEC teams that we see all year. I think that what you guys have on the D line is going to be a problem. So we're aware of that. So now the question is, Billy's got to have some scheme design to, counterbalance some of that rush, so can we create anything on the ground to, also keep us balanced? Those are going to be the question marks of, it's again, until you see it, you don't know what's up with it. It's like, but like we always said, you can't, the way college football is now, in my opinion, the teams are pretty evenly matched. There's some, definitely you got a playmaker here that's better than ours. We got a playmaker here that might be better than yours. You've got a stud, transfer quarterback. We've got a guy who's been kind of, under the radar, disrespected, whatever, but it all comes down to who plays, who comes out and makes the plays. It's who steps up and does.
Who stays composed, who plays assignment football, who's able to, like you say, week 0. It was a prime example of when you don't play assignment football and you get a little behind. Are you too small for the moment? Like you just don't know.
Yeah, I feel like again, that's what I mean too. Is going in is like I feel like the teams are evenly matched. Even like it's like on paper, Florida State's number 10, and they got all these stud transfers from these big time schools, so they're better than Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's a mid range team. They lose like 5 games a year. Blah blah blah. But again, it's all about going out there and executing, making the plays. So it's like.
That's all it's about.
It wouldn't surprise me who either team wins. What would surprise me is if either team blew one of the other team out. If Miami just blows us out, I'd be surprised. If Florida just blows Miami out, I'd be surprised. I think it's going to be a good, hard-fought game for 60 minutes. I just feel like we're going to make enough plays in the environment. But I like the line right where it's at. I'm feeling like a 26-23, 26, 24, 27, 24 type game, field goal game. Who is did y'all's kicker graduate?
Borregales is still there.
Okay,
it's little Borregales.
Okay, is he just as good? I don't even know.
He is.
Was he there last year?
He's been there the last 3 years. He overlapped with his brother, so we had Borregales there.
That's why I was like, I feel like I'm like, God dang, has this guy been there forever?
No, that's a little brother. Little brother's there. He doesn't have the power like his older brother. But he's just as good. He can knock a 50-yarder. If it's 54 and more, I don't know yet.
Yeah, I like Trey Smack. I feel like he's good. So both of our kickers, I feel confident in. So I feel like it's going to come down to a field goal type situation. I feel like whoever's got the ball last might be the team that pulls it out. But again, you can't turn the ball over. And then, like I say, who can stop the run? And who can run it. And then I
think that's where it favors us, just with our offensive line coming back and our defensive line. We got big bodies in the middle. We got. Hey, Miami has SEC bodies now.
No, they do. I mean, like I say,
that's the biggest
you
thing
guys
that
are
killed us the last
you
10,
guys are
15
you
years.
guys are getting the major love from all the national pundits. You guys are in the playoff. You guys are winning the ACC. You
No,
guys are
I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking
I'm just
about.
saying. No, I'm just saying.
Just having the bodies to match up. Whereas before,
that's partly the reason. You got
before we would have a defensive tackle that's what 5'11", 6 foot, and 280, they say 280, 290, who's really 270, 260, 270. Now we have those big bodies that are 6'3", 6'4", 300-pound guys on those lines of scrimmage that could help kind of control the run game and whatnot. I mean, that it makes a big difference just having that size and then having the depth behind that, so where you can roll in. Because I think that's one of our strengths this year, where we should be able to roll in 8, 9 guys on the defensive line to keep them fresh. And playing at 3:30 in the Swamp, it's going to be a little hot and humid. So who's going to cramp up and who's going to have to sit out? I mean, if you miss a guy, just say a Daryl Porter at corner, if he gets hurt or heat exhaustion or cramps or whatever, who's going to be that guy that steps in for him? I have no idea.
Yeah.
So certain positions, worry me, and that would be the secondary.
Yeah.
Everywhere else, I feel pretty confident.
And that's the thing too, is like, again, going into the season where, like, I'll use Florida State as an example, is all summer long, all we heard was this defensive line might be better than last year's defensive line, who had two basically first round guys.
I didn't think so.
Right. Well,
I thought they were going to be good, but I didn't think they were anywhere near last year.
Right. Up to the caliber of, this is going to be one of the better D lines in the country still. So all you hear is that sunshine pumping, from your base, your fan base, your the insiders you got that you listen to, and you're just like, that's all we know. So yeah, we feel good about this, we feel good about that. But guess what?
Yeah.
Something's getting exposed on Saturday, and we're going to find out what it is. So, like I say, we've been talking about it for over a month. It's finally here. There's been some, we haven't played it obviously as much as we'd both like to, but like Spurrier said, we got a tough enough schedule, man.
I can see it being.
We don't need to play these guys anymore.
Yeah, 31-24.
All right, 31-24. I'm in the 27-24 camp, something like that. So, like I say, we'll be watching it and we'll see what happens. And like I say, one of us will be happy, one of us will be sad, just like Ricky last week on this cruise. But speaking of, let's go ahead and jump into what we think is going to happen Monday night before we get into the bigger games. What's crazy about this is, obviously, with the Florida State loss, you know what the line was going into, like, last week before they even played that game?
I'm sure it's in the 20s because I saw it today at 16.5.
Yeah, it's 22.
Yeah, man. So, if you got on it early.
Guess what? Kim's sheet still had that. So in my pool,
did you take Boston College?
Hell yeah, I took them 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. Yeah, I think going into this weekend on Monday night, I think Florida State will they better bounce back, but I think they got a lot to figure out this week. And then coming back across from the pond, how does Mike play it? Did he give the guys a day off? Did he give them 2 days off, or did they bounce right back into it? Because you had to figure that was a late game in Ireland. They probably didn't get back until Sunday afternoon, Sunday night.
I felt like they traveled back like a day or two later. I think they didn't just
fly they came back probably the next day, Sunday night.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, I think they left like either Sunday or Monday. Like,
gotcha.
Because I remember I saw their Twitter. They had a little pin home. We were made at home. They whatever. But I don't know the full.
You got to figure that's like 10 hours right there getting back from Ireland to Tallahassee. So you got to figure, how did the coaches say, do we give them an extra day off? Do we just get out there and run around a little bit to get that lactic acid out of the body and get them healed up? They got to jump right back on it. It's not like they're playing FAMU or Ball State or anyone. They're playing, I'm not saying Boston College is great, but it's an ACC team.
Yeah, so who gave them big fits last year.
Yeah, they did. They did. Remember, they had to come back and win.
Yeah, no, that game was, Florida State was up big, and then all of a sudden Boston College made a late charge, and they kind of got back into the game where it made it like real hairy, and then it was like, whoa, what's going on here? Because
Boston College had like 30 penalties. Remember, they had like 30 penalties that game.
It was crazy. I totally remember. But yeah, Castronellis threw for 300 yards last year in that game. He was 20 of 33, and he also had 95 yards rushing. So I'm pretty sure he's probably gotten better. Or so
buckle up, Florida State.
That's what I'm saying. That D-line better play assignment football this weekend because he if you're Boston College, you're like, huh, we're going to be running.
If Haynes, you're thinking if Haynes King could do that, our guy who's a little bit more athletic and can get out and go.
Guess what? This kid can spin it better than Haynes King too. So I don't know
what because Haynes King missed a couple. He missed a touchdown in the corner. He missed a couple passes himself.
Yeah,
as good as he played.
Yeah, no, he was efficient, like we said earlier. But this guy, he can spin it. So it's like you better figure that stuff out. And then I don't know how good Boston College is defensively because I don't know what they lost or portal wise.
Yeah,
but
same.
You better establish the run.
Yep.
And you better get back to what you did on that first drive. Run your jet sweeps, run your exotic looks instead of just being like, we're better than you. We're better than you. Our nuts are bigger than yours.
The other knock I had on Florida State is, what was DJ? If you got it pulled up in front of you.
Yeah, I got it. He was mad efficient for basic yards. He was let me get it right here. DJ Huey.
I got it. 19 to 27.
For 193.
And think about it. Those 19 completions he had, 12 to 13 of those were under 5 yards.
Yeah. The stat was before halftime, he was 15 to 17 with no passing over 5 yards.
You bet they got to get vertical. That's going to be the biggest thing for me, Florida State this season.
Mike, get vertical. Get vertical. Throw it vertical.
You got to get vertical. Yep. I mean, even if you say, hey, he may throw a pick here and there, even if you say that amongst the coaches, but at the same time, if you're not giving that threat of getting downfield, teams are going to just bring those safeties down from 15 to 12 yards. And that makes a difference because that's 3 yards closer to the line of scrimmage. They could come down and stop the run and help out in the run.
Yeah.
So they got to get vertical. They got to take 3 or 4 shots down the field.
Well, that's like Toafili. I feel like he's the most dynamic runner they have, in my opinion. I like Roydell, but I still feel like Toafili. I mean, you think about it. He had the big 28-yard run for the touchdown to start on that first drive. You know how many carries he got after that and what his yards were? He literally had 7 carries for 4 yards after that play. But
like you say, put him in jet motion. You put him in a wildcat like you did in the ACC championship game. They just have to be creative until they figure out who's going to step up at wide receiver.
Yeah. Again, when you're telling me Ja'Kai Douglas is your number one, you got problems, in my opinion. So, I mean, I like Ja'Kai Douglas but
I think they're going to win. But I'm taking Boston College in the points.
I would take the 16 because again now it's like you got to show.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm taking the plus 16 and a half. Hell yeah, I'm taking it.
Yeah, I think,
why wouldn't I until they show different?
I think Florida State does win this game too because I think they bounce back. But again. Are they going to bounce back where we're like, whoa, we majorly overreacted to week 0 against Georgia Tech. Right. They look really good now. They totally took the week 1 to week 2 jump. We got to wait and see. You got to put it on tape. You got to show me.
But that's just week 1. We're going to say that about plenty of teams we watched this weekend.
That's what I'm saying. You can't again. We'll enough of this game because we've talked about Florida State enough. We'll jump into the other, probably the biggest game of the day, the noon game. The Fighting Dabo Sweeneys versus the number 1 team in the country, the Fighting Kirby Smart Georgia Bulldogs.
In Atlanta, right? This game's in Atlanta.
In the Mercedes-Benz, baby, in the ATL. So it's going to be pro Georgia. But, I mean, Clemson will have plenty of fans because it's not like it's that far away either. But, in my opinion, just me starting off on this one, I feel like the writing's on the wall for another Georgia-Oregon type game from a couple years ago. I don't know what to think of Clemson. I like them because I like their personnel. I like what Dabo's recruited because he hasn't portaled anybody. He's returned. He's returning Klubnik, who I think is a pretty good player. The question is, what are those skill guys at receiver going to look like? Moffa's a pretty good back. He's slow on he's slow on NCAA 25, but
don't remind me.
I don't. I think defensively, Clemson's got dudes on that front, but I just feel like
Do they have
Georgia.
dudes? Do you have dudes that stop Georgia on offense?
Yeah, I just feel like Georgia's got too much. I feel like this game could be a blowout.
And this is a statement. You know, Kirby's going to make this a statement game about how
For
they
sure.
didn't get in the playoff, and hey, we got to come out smoking.
Yeah, the alleged mission that Florida State was on. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
We
I
didn't
knew
get
you
in
were
the
going to take
playoffs.
shots.
We're gonna show. Yeah, we're gonna show you. Did you see? Like somebody apparently tweeted out. One of the insiders from Florida State was like, "Yeah, a former player just met up with the team, and Mike Norvell and those guys. This was before the game. He's like, the team's pissed. They're ready to unleash it and show everybody. Okay, good job, guys. You showed us.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I forget. I mean, I don't know who the player was, but
Yeah,
you know, obviously they really unleashed something. A real team. We'll watch the real team who beat your ass in the bowl game unleash it on your other ACC.
Remember that game? That game doesn't count. That's what they said.
Count.
That game didn't happen.
They didn't. Did Florida State have their starters in Dublin? Like I don't even know. It's like they sat them against Georgia. Did they sit them against Georgia Tech too? They're going to play those guys against Boston College. We're going to see the real Florida State stand up this Monday. You know.
Yeah,
all right, enough. I'm done with Florida State. I'm done.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
Moving on.
You're getting a kick out of this.
I am. We're getting
You're
Georgia Clemson talk.
Yeah, I think Georgia.
You thinking tight? You think can Clemson play with them?
No.
Yeah.
When you say play with them, I still think Georgia's going to win by 2+ touchdowns.
Yeah, so you think they cover? It could be. I think they cover 2, but I think it has the writing on the wall where I think Georgia could expose Clemson for kind of what
I think Clemson's still good in they're ACC good, but are they good enough to play with the big dogs? Like, can they play with Georgia? Can they play with Ohio State? Can they play with Oregon? Teams like that. I don't know if they're ready yet for that, but we'll see. Saturday at noon, like you say.
Yeah.
It's in the dome, so we shouldn't have to worry about guys with cramping up and all of that. I mean, it's probably still going to happen, but the weather should not be a factor on Saturday at noon. Huh?
I said they'll have that AC cranked up.
Yeah. So have they made an announcement about ETN or Smile Munden yet?
No. I mean, as far as I know, they haven't.
They probably will take that up to kick and if they play or not.
Yeah, have they even murmured that they're going to suspend them?
I have not seen anything. They've pretty much been tight-lipped up there in Athens. I think more likely they probably will suspend him for their first game.
Right.
But Kirby's not going to say anything until the last minute unless he has to.
For sure.
It's not like the NFL where you have to report it and the other team has to know. You can take it off because I know Mario does it all the time. You'll know when they run out on the field for warm-ups or whatever. And sometimes if they could hide it past that, they'll do it.
No, I think that they probably should do it just to save face because of all the incidents.
Everything going on. Yeah.
So it's like, all right, come on now. But again, it's Kirby, so I wouldn't be surprised at all as well.
Yeah, but then what's the appropriate punishment? I'm sure those guys have been running stadiums and getting the 4 a.m. workouts, 5 a.m. workouts. But, for a lot of people, that's not enough. They want to say, hey, we need 2-3 games, So what does Kirby play? I don't even know what their schedule is after Clemson. I would assume it's probably a couple cupcakes. So he might push it if it's Clemson and just say VMI the next week. He might give them 2 games.
Yeah,
but we probably
Tennessee Tech next week.
So
they'll play Saturday and then get suspended
next week.
That's old Steve way right there for sure. Steve's like, hey, we got a big one this week. Well, they can sit out. Yeah, we got 2 cupcakes. They can sit out versus Tennessee Tech and Ball State.
Yep.
But
exactly.
I just feel like Beck, in year 2. Now he's obviously going to have, a few new. He's not going to have his safety blanket with McConkey and Brock, but
I still like their skill guys.
No, that's what I'm saying. And then you'll have the child beater. So, but I still like.
No, he's gone.
That's what I'm saying. You don't have those guys. Rah-Rah's. They damn sure kicked him off the team.
You still gotta like Bell. You gotta like Oscar Delp. You still, you got those guys. Colby Young. Then they got the kid from Vanderbilt. Not Will Shepherd, but the other kid. Who had some pretty nice stats. So they still got guys.
Yeah. No, they got dudes. And like I say, I just feel like
in that offensive line. The
you
offensive
think
line
about
is just
you think about talking about
crazy.
us talking about like bringing Cam Ward along or bringing DJU along. Last year was Beck's first year starting because Stetson's been there for so long. So you remember going into last year, those first couple weeks for Georgia, it was like Georgia's kind of Carson Beck. He's not really lighting it up, and just like he was,
but he was efficient though. But that was a crazy thing. Just watching the games.
It was after he struggled a bit at Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
Then he started tearing up. That next week, I think they played Kentucky, and I think he threw for 300, and then went on and blitzed the rest of the way. But it was just like they started off kind of slow. It's like, but guess what? They can afford to do that. To whereas, Florida State, you guys might need to open it up right now. So that's where I'll be interested to see what you guys' approach is on Saturday with Cam. Is like, are they going to be a little reluctant? Now, your boy obviously loves to high fly and throw it around, going back to that A&M game from last year with, Van Dyke. Like, let's open this thing up. So this will be, what is the approach going to be? So this year, I think, obviously, with Carson is like, let's go. Let's wide open. Let's get it going.
Like I say, it makes a difference when you got almost your whole offensive line returning. He's just going to stand back there and just hang out. If Clemson can't figure out how to get pressure on Carson, it's going to be a long, long day. It's going to be a long day.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, like I said, the other, I guess, biggest game that day is the night game where College Game Day is at. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish is going on the road to College Station to play the new, all of a sudden everybody loves Texas A&M Mike Elko Aggies. Who do you like in this one, buddy?
That they're favored in this game. I like Notre Dame to win this one.
I do too. I'm with you on that. I feel like Notre Dame. I like Riley Leonard for one. They brought in a veteran quarterback. Now the question is, what is the approach going to be with him? Because I feel like last year when he was at Duke, what made Duke and him so good was his running ability more so than his passing. I think his run ability opened up his pass. So are they going to be a little gun shy to be like, okay, you're coming off the injury, let's not do that? In my opinion, you gotta let's go. So
well, the other thing that surprises me why Texas A&M is a favorite in this game. When you look at the Notre Dame side, you're only replacing one person in Riley Leonard, But on the Texas A&M, you got a new coach, new system, new OC, DC, a lot of new players because a lot of those A&M players left, hit the transfer portal. So we're not even sure what the hell we're going to see with Texas A&M on Saturday. I guess just because it's at Kyle Field, they're giving them the home advantage, but I don't think that matters. I still think Notre Dame's probably going to win that game, should be the better team and win.
What's crazy is, it wasn't the blue chip ratio thing that Bud does, but some kind of aggregate of your recruiting and what your roster looks like. Like, what's surprising is still, even after all the defections, A&M allegedly has like the 7th best roster in the country, according to recruiting rankings, which was and I thought a lot of guys left too. I thought they just had mass defections, like the Walter Nolans and the Evan Stewarts, those are the big name guys, that were on that D line. But I mean, they've done, for all intents purposes, Jimbo, for as bad as he was, he recruited and they dropped bags and they got dudes. So the question is, again, who are they?
And is Connor Wegman healthy?
Yeah, let me see you play. So
is Wegman coming back healthy off of, I think it was a shoulder injury he had last season? Is he going to be the starter? I think they named him the starter, but
he's definitely he's the starter. Connor Wegman's the starter.
It's a wait and see. I'm curious to see that game. That's going to be a nice little late night game to catch up.
Yeah, like I say, I guess we could talk about obviously the big Monday night game is LSU and USC
Sunday night.
Sunday night. Monday night's the Knowles game. Yeah, the Sunday night standalone game in Vegas, right? It's in Vegas.
Yeah.
Is the USC Fighting Trojans? What are they going to look like with
Caleb?
It's obviously this is the first big question mark because he's had guys at quarterback going all the way back to his Oklahoma days. He's got a guy right in line. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And, obviously Miller Moss looked pretty damn good in the bowl game. He looked good in certain spurts when he came in. So I love Lincoln Riley's system. We already know we love Lincoln's offense. It's just always been, what are you doing on defense, dog? What are you doing on defense? So
I like LSU in this game because the LSU offense, I don't think it's going to be a drop off. But playing against USC, I think they're still good enough to win that game. And I think their defense, they've made a lot of defensive staff changes, and I think their defense is going to be better because those staff changes are just guys coming back that left LSU a couple years ago, and now they're all coming back. So I like LSU winning this game. Yeah, it'll be close. I can see it being a shootout with no defense.
Yeah, because I don't know how good LSU's defense is. That's a big thing. Now they did bring in a new defensive coordinator, the guy who was at Missouri, who I liked. But again, you lose all that firepower on offense with the Jaden Daniels and the receivers. So yeah, Nussmeier's been there, so he should be.
He's played enough. Nussmeier's played enough.
He should be. I mean, yeah, he played. Going back 2-3 years ago, he got
exactly.
Games. The question mark is who's going to be the Malik Neighbors and the Brian Thomas Juniors, and going back to the Jordan Jefferson, the Jamar Chase. Who's going to be those next LSU stud receivers?
I can't think of the kid's first name, but Hill. I think his last name is Hill. He was like the third guy last year. He had a pretty good year.
No, like I say, that those guys are going to have to definitely be the guys who have to step up and become the new number ones, the new playmakers for LSU. But my biggest question mark is what do they look like on defense? Because again, we know that Lincoln Riley and USC should be pretty good offensively themselves.
They better keep an eye on number one.
Yeah, you got to know where Branch. You got to know where Branch is at for sure. But I'm leaning LSU to win, but I might take the 5.5. Because I feel like it'll be a tight game.
Yeah.
But again, you lose all that receiving. Let's see, I'm looking up the guy's name right now. Technically, Mason Taylor was the number 3
tight end.
Well, Kyron Lacey, that's your guy.
Lacey,
that's my bad. No. I bet he graduated. He's out too. So let's see. Neighbors had 1,500 yards receiving.
He was. How did he not win the Biletnikoff last year?
Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. name.
How did he not win the Biletnikoff?
Yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. 1,117 touchdowns. God. Lacey had 558. Then Mason Taylor had 348.
But you know what? It's LSU. They've never had a shortage of talent coming from the boot.
Yeah. So here you go. The next receiver who was a junior last year is now your senior, Chris Hilton Jr., 13 catches for 225. So they're breaking in somebody new, buddy. It's kind of like the Florida State thing. I don't know who they got transfer wise, but after looking at this, nobody had 100 yards receiving after that. It was literally those.
I like Brian Kelly's offense. Usually he'll find someone. He'll get someone.
No, again, I don't disagree with that, but it's not Jaden Daniels throwing and running. It's Nussmeier throwing to a new cast of guys. So would you be shocked?
That defense better step up.
So here's my
Harold Perkins better make 100 tackles.
If USC beat them by 2 touchdowns, would that shock you?
No.
Yeah, I don't think it would shock me. If they beat them by 28 or something, I think that would. But
if it's like a blowout,
I can see. I think this game is it's going to come down to who can make big plays and execute, because you got new guys. Like I say, I think USC's offense is probably going to be a little bit better, but again, did they make those adjustments that they needed to on defense? And that's I think, is Seven still on defense
for USC?
Did he graduate? I think he graduated.
Man, if you go watch, you ever watch his lack thereof highlight tape?
Did he make a 53? That's the question. Did he make a 53?
I'm not sure. It would. Yeah. They had him rated higher than Cam and James Williams.
I know,
going into the draft, and I'm like, how? Every time you turn on the tape, he was getting run over, or he didn't want to tackle anyone at safety. He was just a corner playing safety.
Yeah. I guess what are your other appetizing? We got some Thursday night games. Obviously, the big one Thursday night is this
Boulder,
the Colorado Buffaloes and Deion Sanders. Year 2 of the prime experience.
Hey, they better get right, because we know what North Dakota State's gonna do.
Yeah,
they're just gonna line up and run the football. Now, on the flip side, can North Dakota State stop those wide receivers?
Yeah, I don't. That's where I think.
That's where you would say they were favored, but can the offensive line protect Shedeur?
Yeah, no, and I think eventually over a 4-quarter game, you know, they should have better depth. They should have better bigs. The
Man, I don't know.
weaponry of
I just don't know. I don't care how many skill guys you got. If you can't protect your quarterback, it doesn't matter. You could have Jerry Rice, T.O., Randy Moss.
You calling upset special then? You going that far?
I would not be surprised.
All right, so you taking the 9.5?
Sure as hell I am.
Yeah, I'll take Colorado to cover. I think Colorado will win.
They got to show me that
that's what I'm saying. This is why this is the theme that we're going to be. Yep. You got to put it on tape and let me see it. Let me see it. You know,
it's easy. It's easy to get a bunch of guys out of the transfer portal and say, "Hey, I got my Louis bags." But if you can't protect Shedeur like you did last season, he won't make it. He won't make it through the season if they can't protect him.
Yeah, no,
you don't want to see that happen, but that's just the reality of football. If you can't protect your quarterback, he's not going to make it through the whole season. And they got to show me. Like I said, I think North Dakota State can line up and run the football on them. Now, where they got to slow the game down. They got to have the Georgia Tech approach and say, we're going to have 8-9 minute drives and limit the possessions. Because if you try to get up in an up and down game with Colorado, they're probably going to get blown out. But I think they're a disciplined team. I think I'm going to take the 9.5 for North Dakota State.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I was screaming upset special, but now as it's gotten closer, I think Colorado does what they need to do. But again, let me see it. You know, but you know the other Thursday night games are not that great. It's
only one more game this weekend I'm looking forward to, and that's Penn State going into Morgantown.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah. You know, they don't like each other. They haven't played each other in a while, I think it's been.
Yeah.
And this is the year for put up or shut up for James Franklin. You imagine
playoff
if he
bound, baby. Playoff bound, baby. 10-2 in the playoffs.
But if he doesn't get in the playoff, what the excuse is going to be this year?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I feel like Drew Aller, like what's crazy is Drew Aller, that was his very first game last year against West Virginia. And that was probably one of his better games. He threw for 300 plus. I think he was like 20 or 30. He was pretty efficient. They didn't blow West Virginia out. They kind of hung around, but they extended it late and I think won by 10 or something like that last year. But
you're going on the road now.
No. It definitely going to Morgantown is going to be a hostile place.
Thrown at them, thrown at them.
The only thing too is it's an early kick, so it's not a night game, so they won't be all completely liquored up. They'll be, you know,
it's Morgantown. They're going to be liquored up.
-8. Oh yeah, it's going to be. Yeah, I was looking at the line.
they're going to be liquored up.
Yeah. See, last year's game was a night game. I remember watching that.
Of course, Penn State always wants the night game.
Yeah, like I say, I think I just think Penn State. I think they're going to do is in a hostile crowd. This is where you say, "Hey, Drew Aller, exactly. Give it to Singleton and Katron Allen. Let's just you know do what we do." And like I feel like having two backs like that, Penn State, that's a huge benefit that they can lean on early in the year in those games where you just be like, all right, let's actually 38-15. They stretched it out on them late in that game last year. But I remember it was 38-15 was not indicative of the final score.
No.
Well, damn, looking at it now, it was 24-7 going into the fourth quarter. Then they jumped up 31-7 and they scored a late touchdown, really with no time on the clock.
I think a second year with Garrett Green at quarterback is.
Yeah, I feel like Penn State.
Like I think Penn State's going to win. Yeah, I think Penn State's going to win. But I'm just saying, as a macro for the season, he better figure it out and he better be in the playoff. So if you're Penn State, you're probably sitting at the position of possibly hosting a game in the first round. He better, because like I say, at some point, if you're an alum at Penn State, you're gonna be like, hey man, we got to get somebody else. We're happy. Yeah, 10-2 is great, but 5 years of 10-2 and not really scratching the surface of winning a Big Ten title or being in the playoff, enough is enough. They're gonna be like Georgia fans with Mark Richt those last several years.
I feel like going back, I know we both had him in the playoff, right? You had him in, right?
Yeah,
did you have him
I had him in.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I have him in is because they've got a favorable Big Ten schedule this year, in my opinion. They don't play Oregon. They don't play Michigan. Those are the two, you know, they play Ohio State. Ohio State's clearly the number one team that we both had in there. But after that, we both had as the next two best teams besides the Penn State was Michigan and Oregon. They do play at USC, so we'll see where USC is. But, I feel like, well, guess what? If they lose that USC game, they lose the Ohio State game, they go 10-2, they're probably going to find themselves as the number 10 seed and be in, but we'll see what happens. That's a long season. But, yeah, that's why we both had them in. Their schedule is favorable to where if they had Oregon on there, if they had, if they had to play Michigan as well, then you're like, oh, this is a 3 or 4 loss team possibly. But this could be an 11-1 type team and just lose to Ohio State. But James Franklin's definitely got he's got to put it on tape that they're a 10-2 perennial team and getting, Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, you think about, and that's all I've been saying for the last couple of years with him. You think about it. You look at their schedule. Obviously, they played Michigan and Ohio State every year because they were on the same side. But the rest of their schedule, okay, you're beating Illinois, you're beating Purdue, you're beating Michigan State. So, are you truly happy with the teams you beat? It's not like they were playing a tough non-conference schedule, because then they were playing the Sisters of the Poor, for the most part, most seasons, unless they play like a West Virginia. But, at some point as an alum or a booster, you would be tired of it. You just got to be like, yo, we're paying you all this money. We need more.
I agree. Like I say, it's one of those things of, do you want to be 10-2 and be relevant every year? But now the good part is now you actually
you're more likely in 10-2. You're in the playoff unless the group of 5 team bumps you out at the 12 spot.
Right. Well, again, I think most of the 10-2s are probably going to be in, so it'll look interesting to see if hey, that's enough. Because I mean, again, that if the playoff era was in the 10-2 Mark Richt eras, that's where once you're in the dance, baby. You can do anything. You got a shot to knock off somebody and get on a roll, and you might match up with somebody favorably, and then next thing you know, you're in the Final Four. So
then you get three years of, hey, you made the playoff, and then by the 4th year, they're over it again.
Exactly.
So it's like you reset as long as you're making the playoff. Like you say, I'm happy football's back. It's week 1. Starting tomorrow night, I'm going to watch, some of the games, especially the North Dakota State, Colorado game. And it's going to be interesting to see how the rules changes affects the games. Well, because I guess I didn't get to see the SMU game, but when I saw the final score, I was kind of surprised that they only beat Nevada by 5. I mean, going up to Nevada in that elevation could slow you down a little bit.
I watched the second half of that game. It was I thought SMU was going to lose. They were getting their ass kicked, and next thing you know, they charged back, and Nevada could never get a score again. They were up, and SMU finally got some things going, but it was ugly for a little while there for SMU, because if that's what SMU's putting on, that was not an impressive ACC debut. They'll obviously get better, but I think
fine.
Going into that game, Nevada was allegedly not very good, but they obviously played above what they were, allegedly rated as. But definitely, it's pretty lame, the 2-minute timeout. It's the damn 2-minute warning, dude. Don't call it the 2-minute timeout.
Yeah. So how does that affect score? Are scores going to be higher than last year, lower? Because I think a lot of the games are probably going to go under their totals this week just because of the communication stuff going into some of these environments. Of course, I'm meaning the big games where they're evenly matched, not like Oklahoma versus Temple or Texas playing whoever they're playing. You still expect them to put up 40, 50 points, but how do the coaches work through a lot of the changes with the communication and the 2-minute warning? It does change your strategy at the end of the game. Now that's like a free timeout to where, can I use a timeout earlier in the second half if we're reeling a little bit? Whereas before, coaches would be like, man, I can't use this timeout right now. I need this. This is a close game. We just got to, unless it's really bad. Now you could say, all right, in essence, we have a 3rd timeout at the 2-minute warning, or a 4th timeout. Now we could gamble and use one a little earlier.
Yeah, no, for sure. You basically have 4 timeouts now in each half, because the 2-minute timeout gives you that extra one at 2 minutes. So I mean, I think it definitely will help. If you got to call one early, that you got that one to bank on later in the halves. To do that. But I think I think the reason why there'll be more unders this week is just because it's week one. Teams just
that too
feeling themselves out just to try to figure things
like
out.
I said, but you still have to factor in all those other things as well, because that is a factor. Whereas if you think about Tennessee being an up-tempo team and just getting on the ball and running, now how does that slow down where you're taking out of the signs, which they probably won't?
Here's my thing. If some teams might not even use it, they might be like, let's stick to what we do.
Yeah, I believe that. And
this is what we do.
Slowly introduce it in, bring it in.
If we need to talk to each other, we'll talk to each other. But let's just do.
You probably do that week 2 against the Citadel.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if teams just be like, we don't even use that. We still do what we do. And if somebody wants to try to steal our signs or whatever, then they could steal our signs.
Yeah,
they don't have Connor Stallions out there to do it, man.
No,
he's the Rain Man, the savant.
Yeah, it's
pretty good.
I mean, you were telling me about that before we went.
That was a pretty good documentary. Like I say, he was pretty good at deciphering signals, and he had an elaborate scheme to do it. And it was again, where it was all legal is how he started, just watching TV copies and watching the sidelines or whatever. To where it allegedly got fishy was when you're showing up on sidelines of different teams
when you're in the
allegedly
shirt.
Now, he when he did his deposition with the NCAA, it's at the end of the doc. They asked him, like, was this you at Central Michigan? And he's like, I don't recall ever being at that game. That was his that was his answer.
He hit the Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa.
I misremembered if I ever went to that game. That's what I always tell Haiti whenever I misremembered that. I didn't remember.
I'm sure that gets you far.
She laughs at that one. Misremembered my ass.
To a point. She laughs to a point.
Yeah, for sure. So
I misremembered that I had to pick up Cruz today.
All right, buddy. We got a couple more days, and we'll be talking
Canes
shit to each other.
Canes will be 1-0, buddy.
1-0, baby. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great watching Florida State and Miami 0-1. It's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be a beautiful thing on Monday.
Well, we don't have to worry about that.
All right, dog. Like I say, this wraps up, I guess, a week 1 edition of the Talking Ball with my boy Big L Train. Like I say, we'll tune back in, and we'll, like I say, one of us is gonna be happy. One of us will be sad.
I'm gonna be happy either way.
I mean, put it this way. I'm
gonna be happy either way.
As I've gotten older, again, losses did sure. I get the 24-hour rule, but I mean, it's out of sight, out of mind.
Only if the people knew.
I'll
leave those stories for back in the day.
I'll sleep well on Saturday night. Regardless of what happens. I'm gonna eat some good food, drink some good beverages, watch some football all day, and we'll be all right. But all right, everybody, appreciate you tuning in for another edition.
Like, subscribe, share,
hit the bell, talk some shit. Ricky, how you feeling, dog? How you feeling, Bubby? Hopefully, y'all can get it 1-1. But we'll tune in next week, and we'll bring all the details of who did what and who didn't, and we'll get you ready for a week 2 of the college football season next week. From my boy Spongerelli, L Train, holler.
Let's go. Later.